Hey everybody, I'm in Dayton, Ohio here at the 2023 Oldsmobile Club of America National Meet. All right, so I'm going to fill you in about what's here and what's going on. All right, let's go. All right, guys, so I'm just going to give you some highlights of the 2023 Oldsmobile Club of America National Meet. First, I'm going to show you some of the stuff that happened on Thursday at Kil-Kare Dragway. Now, I didn't extensively video or photograph this. I've done that before where I tried to capture everything and felt like I missed the event. I really was involved and enjoyed the event. So really what I have here is just a highlight reel of some of the things that stood out to me. So this right here, this car is getting its own special episode, but this is my friend Ed Lafferty's car. It's a 1970 442. At first you may say, oh, wow, nice car. Yeah, it's pretty. It's, Matador red. It's got the 455 on it. Hey, air conditioning. And by the way, this is, I believe, R12 air conditioning, and it does work. It blows freezing cold, but it's not all original. It's got the original compressor and things, but if you see, some of the system has been converted over to the receiver driver of a later model. But anyway, jet hot coated intake, ported iron C heads. You can't see it here in these pictures, but this thing has a ZF 6-speed manual transmission. And this, to boot, was all put together about 29 years ago. Anyway, again, you'll see the car in a special episode. This is actually Joe Mondello's. This was the Joe Mondello's. This specific car, race car, his test bed vehicle, and it's been completely restored. This car also has its own special episode, and I interview the new owners. Amazing car, and you'll be blown away when you see some of the details of what they did to restore it. This car here is honestly probably my favorite car at the show, really. This is a 1972. I believe it's a Cutlass Supreme. And if you look, the Supremes are all notchbacks. It's been lowered. The color looked more orange than red in person, okay? But at first, you think, okay, there's no hood scoop. There's no 442 hood. Oh, wait a minute. Okay. Oh, if you look close, you do see headers. Let's get a little bit closer to the engine. We see steel valve covers. Oh, RPM air gap, intake. But it doesn't look terribly fast, does it? In fact, look, you see a factory fuel pump with rubber lines. I witnessed this car, as you see here sitting. It ran 1172 in the quarter mile. That's fast. So it's a little bit of a sleeper. It's obviously got electric fuel pump in the tank. This was a really cool car. Don't let the wheels fool you. Stock tires up front. But on the back here, we've got some pretty good sized. These are Mickey Thompson, actually drag radials. They're 26-inch diameter by, looks like 11.5-inch wide. Gorgeous, gorgeous car. And not all the cars, this was at Kil-Kare Dragway, but not all the cars raced. I didn't race mine. Like this beautiful Cutlass Supreme convertible here, the gold small block in it. Here is a beautiful 1971 442, and I believe this is like a factory color. It's got the W30 package. You can tell by those red fender wells. This car was cool. It's a tube chassis race car, but if we look at the next picture, you can see it's a wagon. How many people drag race an Oldsmobile wagon? That's pretty cool. I have a soft spot in my heart for the G-bodies because I used to have a G-body. A lot of you guys know that my 1986 Cutlass, that got stolen in 2004. But anyway, at first I thought it was black, but it's a dark metallic green. And it's got beautiful 18-inch wheels. The rear tires are the same size as what I have all the way around. The rears were 275/40/18. You can see Corvette brakes, upgraded brakes, all kinds of goodies, all kinds of upgraded suspension underneath. You can see discs on the rear. I loved the interior too, and I believe the guy said that the console, I think, that was out of like a 2003 Ford Taurus, I think he said. But unfortunately not Olds-powered, but still a beautiful car. Here's a 1972 442 drag car with a lot of polished and aluminum under the hood and some chrome. Just absolutely gorgeous, right? So those are the cars from Kil-Kare Dragway. Next, we're going to go to the Friday and Saturday OCA, Olds Club of America, the actual show part. That was in downtown Dayton. Some amazing cars here, like this 1959 Olds Super 88. These cars are massive, just absolute pieces of art. And look at that hardtop. open from front to back. Look at that glove box. It's absolutely massive. Rolling speedometer, I guess the bar would move across it, right? Little things like there's a handle on the trunk. Gas filler. Look at these taillights. Amazing, amazing vehicles. This thing's gorgeous. If your parents ever had an Olds Delta 88 or 98, these Super 88s, this is a 58. Look at the air conditioning system on that thing. Compressor, look at all the copper lines. It's amazing. This is where that technology came from, but this is where that model line came from. And this one, look at that wagon, look at that tailgate. I'm completely unfamiliar with these cars, but just in total awe at the beauty of these things. And look at the chrome on this thing, miles of chrome. And there's that glove box open. Beautiful, beautiful. I don't see myself ever owning one of these old cars, but they are stunning. The pastel colors. I can't tell you whether these colors are original or not, but probably majority of them are. You know, these look like restored vehicles to me. Here's an absolutely beautiful car. What are we looking at here? Marty, right?
Yes.
Pleasure to meet you. Pleasure to meet you. Gorgeous car. Looks like a full, complete restoration to me, correct?
Absolutely.
And this is a 1969 F85.
F85 Oldsmobile.
With the W31
option. Yep.
Right. Okay. Now, when we say restoration, as in like the engine tag sticker there indicating right where the engine was made, and the correct hose clamps, and I mean everything, right?
Everything to try and return it to C1 condition.
Stamp on the firewall. Beautiful car. Now, so this is a F85, not a Cutlass, correct?
Not a Cutlass. You will not find the name Cutlass on this car anywhere.
Okay. Okay. And could you explain what the difference between a post car is and a hardtop?
This is what we call the post.
Right, so the door has a frame on it versus
this is a hardtop.
Like mine.
You roll that window down, it's all open.
And it's amazing that they did these different things. And
this is your basic automobile.
Okay. And the reason people would buy this car a lot of the time, because it's kind of an odd combination, right? I see it's got a bench seat, it's got a 4-speed manual transmission, right?
Yep.
If you can see the shifter there.
Yep.
And we've got the basic, cheapest, didn't they call these dog dish or poverty cap, hubcaps?
Dog dish hubcaps.
Dog dish, I've also heard them called poverty.
Yes.
So in other words, you have the lowest base model wheels, a stripped interior, but you've got this is the high performance small block.
Yes.
With a 4-speed. Explain why people would buy this car back in the day?
So they could take it racing. They probably bought the basic steel wheels with the dog dish hubcaps because they were probably going to put an aftermarket wheel, like a racing wheel, on it the next day.
Anyway, right. And one of the other guys was saying sometimes these cars would come with a higher performance carburetor, like a Holley carburetor, and or even a higher ratio ring and pinion in the trunk uninstalled. Right?
Yep.
That's amazing.
This one's got the 433 ratio in the back end.
Wow, I just, for the viewers, that means in top gear at about 3,000 RPM, you're going, what, like 50 miles an hour?
I'm not sure, I haven't been there yet.
When was this painted and restored?
We just finished this car in 22.
Wow, that's absolutely gorgeous. And it came this way, you said, right? With the stripes on the hood. That's amazing. Absolutely gorgeous car. Wish you guys could see the paint in person.
Again, everybody's like, oh, are you sure?
Look at that. I mean, even these emblems just look amazing. And are these actual bias ply tires? Or are they reproductions?
They're bias ply reproduction tires.
The correct tires. Look how small, how skinny those tires were back in the day. It's gorgeous. And you know what the ramrod? A lot of the people are going to be watching this aren't going to be familiar with what ramrod is.
Ramrod is just another term that they apply to these engines. The W31 option really is the official name.
Okay.
In 1968, the W31 was not tagged W31, it was tagged Ramrod.
Oh, really?
In 69, they still called it a Ramrod motor,
Uh-huh.
but they called the car a W31.
Got it. And you can see over there, no brake booster, manual brakes.
Manual brakes, manual steering.
No air conditioning. Manual steering too, huh?
Not much fun to drive.
No power steering. You see the power steering pump normally would be right there.
Yep.
You see the shaft is directly connected. Wow. Here's some ads from the day, huh? Now,
That would be the order form for this car.
For this car, no kidding. Wow, so this is where they actually chose the options that the owner wanted for this.
Yes.
Wow.
And that's what the car looked like when I got it. If you can get a shot at it.
Yes, and you can see, look at those holes, there's rot. I'm sure the
Oh, yeah.
floorboards weren't that great.
She was pretty raunchy.
Wow. How long did it take to restore?
I bought it in 03.
2003. Okay.
It didn't take that long. I took that long.
Gotcha. There you can see some rot on the floors, and wow, but look at that, the emblems are there, and wow,
Everything was there.
it's amazing. Gorgeous car, and I learned something today. I didn't realize the F85 was its own separate model.
Yep.
So, okay. Thank you very much, Marty. I appreciate your time.
Nice talking to you.
These cars have a special spot in my heart. These are what you call the G body. The G means the chassis line. These were made, this body style was made, the same frame from 78 to 88 basically, but with this style, this basic style, I think was 1981 to 87. There was some holdovers in 88, but here you have the 442. And that's the 87 and 88 Cutlass, or 87 442 had the modular headlights like these two both have. All the 442s have that silver color on the bottom. And I think, what were they? You can get white, blue, black, and maroon.
85 was white, and then the other years were silver, blue, red, black.
Gotcha. Oh, that's right, there's a silver. The silver ones were neat because they had the silver and gray.
Right.
And then here you have like the 86.
With the silver metallic with the gray.
And you can tell the years apart basically by the grills. 87 442 is easy because it's the only one with modular headlights. 86 had this blacked out vertical, right? And the grills are a little bit different on every year. But there's only a 40 horsepower increase option. It's kind of interesting, but the factory did a lot of engineering for that 40 horsepower. Had bigger tires. I had a 8.5 inch ring and pinion rear end instead of 7.5. A lot of different stuff like that. Interior generally come with a gauge package like this you see with a tachometer and the gauges, console shift, bucket seats, leather wrapped steering wheel, a lot of things like that. Here's another example of what I talk about artwork in these old cars. This is a 1955 Olds, right? And this is a two-door convertible. Convertibles I think were pretty rare in that day. Look at this chrome work on this thing and look at the lettering. Each one of those had to be cast, chrome plated, and then bolted and fastened into the bumper, probably from the inside or from the underneath. It's an amazing, amazing vehicle. Look at this thing restored. I honestly don't know hardly anything about them. Older generation of Oldsmobile engine. Beautiful cruising car, isn't it? This is the kind of car you take your family out for ice cream in on a beautiful Sunday night. So it's 1964 was the first year for the 442, correct?
That's correct.
But this here we have a 65.
And that was the first year it was badged as a model by itself.
And it kind of looks almost the most plain Jane, I would say, right? It looks
absolutely.
the simplest. It looks, you know, we see 442 here is badged down by the fender well, I guess you'd say here, right? Kind of a big scoop. We got the triangular corner window still. And this would have been a 400 cubic inch, right? And a bronze engine.
Yeah, it was 330 and 64, and then they went to 400 and 65.
Gorgeous car, gorgeous, gorgeous car. Here we have a beautiful example of a 67. Now it's similar body style, similar body lines, correct? But the headlights, the easy way to tell apart, is it still has a single grille, but the headlights are now pushed apart with the turn signal between, correct?
Right. And then the W30 option has the ram air, which they cutely put the air intakes right above and below the turn signal.
There we go. And we see the two dryer duct hoses, we call it, are bringing air in. And also note here, the engine color. So this year, That is an Olds 400, correct? The bronze color should be the Olds 400. And we see the red fender wells. The red, I think, had no functional, difference, but the red fender wells came on the W30 cars only. Beautiful, beautiful car.
67 had the turn signals between the headlights, and then 68 continued that, even though they changed the body style.
And we see it's much more rounded. This is the 68 to 72 frame chassis. They call it the A body, right? Gorgeous, gorgeous car, like you said. Still has the turn signal between. And if we look at the back, you see now the general body shape, quarter panel shape is very different. They had these cool features.
Gary, I'll call you.
They had the turn signals land in the quarter panel there. But now we see how the taillights are horizontal, and they're actually not in the bumper. Now we have 1969, where you see now the headlights are pushed together and the grille is split. Now we also see here they moved the divider in the center up into the hood, and that was 2 years only, right? 69 and 70 both had that head basher, right? Okay. And what distinguishes, Tim, the 69 from the 70?
They look very similar, but the 70 is a longer, larger head bashing unit, and then the grills, I swear, are opposite. So the 442 has this style, and then the Cutlass and the F85 have the more standing fins, those larger space fins. And in 1970, the 442 grill looks more like the Cutlass grill, and it causes a lot of confusion within Olds people.
Okay, and then also the nose sticking up there on the bumper would not be as high on a 70, right?
Right.
Okay, we'll find one here in a second. General body shape didn't change a lot. And we see the taillights are very beautiful on these. I've got the beautiful single vertical taillight that is kind of starting to be integrated into the bumper as well.
And the trumpets.
Oh yeah, trumpets. They call that the exhaust cutout, the trumpet. So if you got the 442 package, you got the bumper with the cutouts and the trumpets. Versus, you can see over here, the plain bumper without the trumpets. So now here's the 70, and as you pointed out, the center part of the nose on the bumper is very low, very shallow. It is pretty similar though. You see the top edge of the hood is still straight across. That head basher thing on the hood is much longer. Now we also see 70 to 72 are similar, but you see the 70 is the only one with this the square cutouts for the turn signals. Red fender wells designating the W30. And now we see it has it has twin vertical taillights. Very beautiful. Look at all that chrome. And of course this one has the trumpets. Thing to note, when they went to the 455, then you got this Oldsmobile blue color, right? So you can kind of tell the engine sizes if it's the correct color just by looking at the color, because you have this Oldsmobile blue for the 455s. We already saw the bronze for the 400s, and the Cutlasses never came with a 425, but those were red. So now we have here the 1971. You can see now they went to the round turn signal lights. The grille is different. The grille is actually taller, and you can see that trim does not go straight across the hood. It kind of bubbles up into the hood. So the hood is different, correct? Hood is different. The 442s and the standard Cutlasses had different grills. So the 71, you can see there the headlight buckets are not blacked out. And let's go to a 72 where the headlight buckets are blacked out. As far as I'm seeing, the grille is really the same. Yours is not blacked out on the grille area itself, but is that about the only way you tell the difference from the front, is the blacked out?
They're black, and this has got the silver facing, and it's also got this black.
Okay.
Silver,
so 72s, the headlight buckets should be blacked out on all models?
Correct.
Okay, and then we're going to look at the tail lights. We'll show you how to tell the difference from the back. Both convertibles here. So the 71 has this single bar, I guess I would call it, the taillights that are undivided. Where the 72 has the, it's divided into 3 pieces on each. And again, both of these have the trumpets. And this is your 72?
Yep.
442? Okay. Gorgeous car. And this does not look like a factory color. It's beautiful. It is, really?
It's called Radiant Green.
Radiant Green. And now here's something else.
36 code right here on the...
Now we're getting really technical into stuff here. This body code tells you a lot of the stuff. It's got the paint code on it, right?
Yep.
And that would be the 36?
Yeah, and interior color and all that's on there.
Wow. Wow.
So it's called Radiant Green. It was a factory color.
Okay. Okay. Great. And we already said that the colors for the big blocks, the small blocks of this era should be gold.
Correct.
Just like this.
Yep, big blocks are the blue.
And there's that Oldsmobile blue, beautiful color again.
Yep.
Wow. So this looks like a non-air conditioning car.
Correct.
We'll note something else. Non-air, alternator on the passenger side. Power steering on the driver's side, so you get tension left and right. But when you get air conditioning, now you have the air conditioning compressor on the left side, and the alternator goes to the other side. Little tidbits. How long have you owned this car, Jeff?
4 months.
4 months, really?
Yeah.
No kidding. Okay, so it's new to you.
Yep.
It's beautiful.
Yep.
You know when it was painted, or?
I think 09 is when it was restored. So.
Okay. Okay. Wow. Have you had a lot of Oldsmobiles before? Or?
I had a blue 72 hardtop back in the 80s and 90s. The plates are actually off of that car. I kept them. You can see that.
Yeah.
They're licensed in 88.
Wow.
But yeah, I got rid of that car in the late 90s, and I hadn't had one till this 4 months ago. I looked 3 years to find this one.
And I see somebody took the time to. That's that cadmium coated power brake booster. It has that Delco Marine stamp on it, which it should, right? So that's great.
And the lid's not correct. It shouldn't be chromed. I have a original for it.
Oh.
It should be black.
Yeah, but it looks cool. Thank you for your time. Cool car.
It has some unique things.
This has some unique options, and I think one of the misnomers is old cars were an option, and some of these cars did have some cool options. And a lot of the younger members of my audience probably won't even know what this is. And this is what again?
So that's the 8-track.
You want to explain an 8-track in 10 seconds or less to people who've never heard of it?
Way before cassette, way before disc, before digital media. Yeah,
that came actually before the cassette tapes, right?
It is.
And did it play 8 tracks like you had?
8 tracks, and if a song was too long, it would stop in the middle of the song and go to the next track and pick back up.
Yeah.
It's actually 4 tracks because it's stereo, 2 channels. You have 8 tracks in total, thus the 8-track. And it plays to one end of the tape, and then it reverses direction and plays the other direction of the tape, and then back and forth. And the tape is much thicker than the cassette tape.
And they're terrible quality, everything I heard.
But they're fun.
They're still fun. And what other options does this have? This has a hood lockout?
So it's got the hood lockout. It's got the trunk. Yeah, it's over there, and then the trunk release is inside here. The trunk release is
Pop
there.
the trunk there.
Yeah, it's got the Hurst dual gauge shifter.
Oh, no kidding. The dual gauge shifter. So when you switch it to the right side, you can manually shift up. It's an automatic transmission to 1, 2, 3.
Yep.
And the hood lock is there because the hood latch
could be accessed by anybody.
Can be accessed when you're not into car. I don't know if I can show it here, but you stick your hand right up in there, and that pops the hood, and that lockout stops somebody from doing so.
Correct.
Yeah, cool stuff. But you have the original window sticker for this car.
Yeah.
And look at this total cost back in 1972. $4,772.
That's all the options here.
Which was expensive for the day, right?
Oh, yeah, that was...
Yeah.
Wow, the base price was $3,500, so...
car might be 25,
so it's almost 25%. Now, could you show me under the trunk? This is the original trunk mat.
Yeah.
And there's the
you can
original,
see the factory color only went to there.
Yeah, so that's the original paint right there, that with the original green, right?
Yep. And even on this latch, you can see that the paint only went so far, and even on here.
Yep.
You know.
That's spatter paint. Wow, that's fantastic. Another sought-after feature in this era with the W30 cars, you have this OAI, outside air induction. So you have the single snorkel air cleaner, but on top, you can see it's got the foam, along with that door that opens up, and it seals up here to the hood. On the original factory hoods, correct me if I'm wrong, Tim, the hood, the factory W30 hoods would be fiberglass on the outside, with the underside would be steel. Right? So fiberglass wrapped over steel, and those in good shape are really, really expensive, hard to find. So you had the twin snorkels here, bringing in air through that and into the air cleaner. And you can see there's a vacuum line. I don't know if you call that a diaphragm, but that basically what that does is with the engine vacuum, with the engine running, it shuts the door. And when you hit a, basically wide open throttle, that you lose vacuum, plopping that door open, allowing air to come in, correct? That's correct. And they say that, generally speaking, you don't get air conditioning with a W30 or power steering.
Power brakes, power steering, and it's because the lack of vacuum on the W30 with the bigger cam.
So now hang on a second. So this is a 442 with outside air induction, but not a W30, correct? This one has power brakes, right? Which you could get both ways.
You could. They found it that you could get the options.
Yep, this is not a W30. And the other way we know it's not a W30 is the intake, so we'll show you that. So here we have the elusive W30 package. So W30 was the highest output engine, the big block Olds 455. And we can see here the code on the head there, F. If you can see that, letter F. Anyway, if I recall the differences on this, again, we see the red fender wells, not functional. But we do see it has an aluminum intake manifold. It's very easy to identify, not just because it's aluminum, but there it's kind of hard to see, but it does say Olds. And then it says Olds, and then I think it says W-455. I believe it's the same shape, but obviously much lighter. And I know there is exceptions, but generally speaking, with a W30 car, you get no power brakes, and this one does have power steering. But because the power brakes are run off of vacuum, the reasoning, in my understanding, is with the large duration cam that the W30 had. Large duration cam means the camshaft holds the intake and exhaust valves open longer, which gives you more fuel and air into the engine at higher RPM, but it reduces engine vacuum at low RPM and idle. Supposedly there wasn't enough to run the power brakes, so I think it was the exception that you could actually get it. But again, look at the CAD plating, zinc plating on the horn relay, right? Everything's just gorgeous. Stamping from production lines has been reproduced. The tape line here, so that you line the things up so you know that it's the cap is on, all kinds of things. Another interesting point here, you notice the radiator itself says fill cold. The reason for that is because you see the hose just goes down to the ground. They sometimes didn't have in this era overflow coolant catch cans, so if it had too much coolant, it just belched it onto the ground, believe it or not. Gorgeous car. This is a hard top. Here we have a really interesting piece of Oldsmobile history. Hi, I'm Bob, and your name is?
Felix.
Felix, it's a pleasure to meet you. This is a 63 what?
63 Jetfire.
And this would have been before the Cutlass even existed, right?
Well, in 63 we have Cutlasses. It's the same body style, but it was a postcard.
Okay.
Like that gold one we have next door.
Okay, okay.
So the Jetfires were specially made with a turbo.
Now look at this. So you think turbocharging is something modern, but 1963 with carburetors, Oldsmobile was building turbocharging.
Yes, it was a side draft.
Okay.
Carburetor.
Side draft, that means the air goes from the left to the right through the carburetor.
It's what we call a draw-through setup.
Okay. And there's two ways to do it, right? Draw through is when the turbo is sucking air through, and blow through would be when you pressurize.
Correct.
Which is more difficult because then you have to pressurize the entire outside of the carburetor.
Correct.
Okay. And this is what size and style of engine?
It's a 215 cubic inch.
Uh-huh.
And Oldsmobile and GM guys, they managed to make 1 horsepower per cubic inch.
Okay.
So it was a 215 horsepower and a 215 cubic inch motor.
Which, sounds like nothing today, but back then that was, pretty decent.
1 horsepower per cubic inch.
Yeah, that was a big deal.
Yes.
Yeah. So a lot of people don't realize back in these days, Oldsmobile was ahead of its time.
They were.
And I think just people didn't care enough about efficiency when gas was, what, 20 cents a gallon or something.
Correct.
Mind if I take a picture of this engine? Is this your phone?
Yes, sir.
Right? So, yeah, that's pretty amazing. How does it drive?
Oh, it drives like a champ.
Yeah.
This one is a 4-speed.
Okay. Meaning, and by the way, this era car, anytime you hear somebody say 4-speed, that means a manual transmission, because there were no 4-speed automatics.
Yes, there's a manual transmission.
Mm-hmm. Let's get a quick shot of that here. Yeah, look at that, right? You can see right there on the shifter knob, 1, 2, 3, 4. It's, the interior is gorgeous. Did you restore this, or?
Yes.
Yourself?
Myself.
Amazing. Did you paint it too?
We touched up the paint job.
Really? No kidding. It's gorgeous. How much work did it need?
Like everything, all cars.
Yeah, okay. That's gorgeous. It's kind of an orange color. I'm not sure what they would call it.
It's what they call holiday red.
Holiday red, interesting. And it does look like a orange with a touch of red is what I would describe it as.
Correct.
So, now these cars in this area are interesting. You see so much is metal. I mean, it looks like the dashboard, the bottom side, the dash is
dashboard, yeah.
Is you know,
metal.
yeah, the safety I hadn't developed yet, but these cars are really interesting. So, and look at this, all this stuff in the trunk, and it's got the trunk lining and full-size spare. Yeah, very interesting.
One thing about it is it was the water injection, methanol injection, short with the liquid to cool off the turbo.
Okay, okay.
So they go on booze. They were rated for 8 pounds of booze. They go on booze and the
because there's no intercooler.
no intercooler, and they get injection through vacuum.
And where is that set up? Under the
It's
hood?
on the front. Yeah.
Okay.
Fill up.
So it's, oh, look at this. Yeah, they call it turbo rocket fluid, right? Is that that's the extra?
Yes.
And it goes in here, huh?
Yes.
No kidding. And it's water alcohol mix?
Correct.
No
Water,
kidding.
alcohol with oil.
Wow, that's insane. And that is drawn through there?
Drawn through here, go to that valve,
Uh-huh.
and when you need it, it just, this valve gets injected through that carburetor. And
Wow. And that lowers the
Lowers the-
combustion chamber temperature. Amazing stuff. And I see a wire, locking wire. Is that
Yes.
factory as well?
That's
right? Wow.
factory, yes.
No kidding. You don't usually see that except on aircraft. That's to keep the nuts from backing off. That's obviously must be a super critical component.
I got 2 cars. This one is automatic.
These are both yours?
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Wow, I guess you like them, huh?
Yes, I like it.
Amazing.
This one is a fully loaded car with factory AC and all that.
No kidding. Okay. That's a lot of stuff under the hood.
A lot of fun.
I don't even see the air conditioning compressor.
So the on the bottom.
No kidding. Okay. Felix, I really appreciate your time. These are gorgeous
Thank you.
cars, right?
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You might want to.
All right. Hi, I'm Bob. What's your
Hi.
Bob Powers?
I'm Eric Jensen.
Eric. Okay, so this is, what do we have exactly here? I see another turbocharged car that looks similar. I see the Jetfire logo again.
Yeah, it's a 62 Oldsmobile Jetfire. They only made them in 62 and 63.
So here's a 62,
Yep.
and these are the 63s. And I see different, I mean, it's similar, but very different. And the back end is really different, right?
Yeah, 62 is a lot more round.
Yes.
63 is kind of squared off a little.
So I see this is horizontal,
Yeah, it's kind of the
Rounded, like
tail
you said.
fin kind of style.
and then here we have more of the vertical with the squared off.
Yeah.
So this is what I think is astounding is General Motors made tooling and dies and stamping for 1 year of an automobile run.
Well, see, it's based off the Cutlass and F85.
Okay.
And the Cutlass F85 started in 61, and then
Okay.
in 62 they come out with the Jetfire, which is the same body. And so yeah, this is 1 year only, but again, it's a 2 year run. Now 63, that was a 1 year only. These are considered Y bodies.
Okay.
And they're unibody, they're not a full frame.
No kidding. And just in case anybody's wondering, I can't really show you, but most of these cars here have a frame. In other words, you could have the engine, the wheels, tires, brakes, transmission, rear axle rolling around on the ground with no body, no floors.
Yep.
But the unitized body construction is more like a modern car construction. Where you have a subframe and
bolts in the front,
there is no
and
frame in the
bolts
middle.
in the rear, and no frame.
So I mean, again, you don't
so
realize
63 is a tooling of 1 year only.
That's crazy.
But these are actually technically 2 year. Now, there's a little difference. The F85 and Cutlass were post cars. Between they had a B pillar. And
these are post? No, that one's not.
That's a hard top. The post would be the brown Cutlass on the other side of the white car. It's actually a post car.
This gold one here?
Yeah, and it's a Cutlass.
Okay. So you see the door frame around the door is what you're looking at.
Yeah.
And yours is like mine, where it's totally open when you roll the windows down.
And,
they call it a hard top because it looks like a convertible hard top, even though it's not a convertible.
So yeah, then Oldsmobile, they decided to turbocharge them. They were 215 all aluminum engines.
Oh, I didn't know that. This is aluminum block?
Yep, aluminum block heads, intake manifolds, even the water pump's aluminum.
Wow.
And
I remember in the 80s when General Motors started doing aluminum heads on V8s, it was a big deal. And here we go in 1962. They were already doing this.
And these engines were a joint effort between Buick and Oldsmobile. Buick has a version and Oldsmobile has a version.
Okay.
And
it wouldn't have been red, would it?
Most 62 Jetfires had red turbos.
So that's stock.
Yeah, most of them. All the 63 Jetfires had silver turbos.
Okay, I just assumed that was your thing, but no, that's amazing.
But
and if we see a little more about the plumbing, we see the exhaust here.
yeah,
That's it. So this is the hot side of the turbo.
Yeah, yeah.
That's the exit of the exhaust from the turbo.
Now,
spool's a turbo.
yeah, and it runs off both banks. A lot of guys mistake. They think it's just running off that bank of the engine. But on the exhaust manifold on the driver's side, there's a crossover pipe that comes over to the passenger.
Does it go under the back?
Yep, goes underneath the back, but you won't be able to see it from up here.
Yeah,
But then it runs to the front of this manifold into there, and then the down pipe all the way back. Looks like I got a picture down here. There we go. Get that picture out there.
And it's connected down here. Oh, yeah, again, too tight to really see. But
yeah.
Wow.
But both banks will run through the turbo, and then it's a hot air engine, so it just blows right into the intake manifold.
So the turbo is on top of the intake, literally.
Yeah.
Wow.
Now, something else on these were high compression motors with,
no kidding.
with 6.5 pounds of boost. So what they did is they ran turbo rocket fluid.
Now, is this like the actual real thing here?
Yep, that's the real stuff.
Kidding. Man, I'm thirsty. It looks like lemonade.
What that is water and methanol with water-soluble oil.
Wow.
And the boost pressure will pressurize the fluid tank.
No way, and automatically feed?
And then it senses what's under boost, so it'll eject the water into the intake air. And if you're familiar with water meth systems, as the water evaporates, then it's cooling the intake air so it won't detonate because it's got such high compression.
So they maybe yet hadn't figured out that low compression is the way to go with turbocharged.
Well, they knew that would prevent the detonation.
Yeah.
But Oldsmobile in their literature specifically states they wanted to maintain the fuel economy of high compression.
Okay, got it.
And they wanted to maintain the higher performance of no turbo lag.
Right.
With high compression and a turbo, you'll have minimal low turbo lag.
Wow.
So they wanted to minimize that, and they done it all on purpose, but to do that, they had to water meth inject them.
And why do you think this didn't stick, per se? Because this was gone by what year?
63 was the last year.
And they never made a bigger version of it?
No. And
people didn't care about...
Yeah, between the 2 years, there was only 9,800 or something like that made.
Wow.
But the biggest problem...
And we've got like 4 of them in a row right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
The reason they really didn't last long is customers just simply wouldn't put the turbo rocket fluid in.
Oh, wow.
Now, there was safety systems to prevent it from boosting
when
you ran out of fluid, but those safety systems weren't meant to be a long-term strategy.
Right.
So the safety system would fail, then all of a sudden it would boost again without fluid. Well, now you're high compression with boost and no fluid, and you're burning up your motors.
Oh,
so by 1965, Oldsmobile said, well, we've had enough of this. We're going to offer customers free of charge. We'll put a 4-barrel carburetor on them. And I think the numbers were like 80% of the customers took them up and got rid of their turbos and put
and took the turbo system off of the car. Wow.
And went to carburation just because they weren't necessarily problematic. It was more the fact customers weren't.
They weren't ready for this technology.
They just didn't want to add their fluid.
Wow. And I see you've got the stamps, right? These would be factory correct stamps. And I'm not an expert on that stuff, but I know. Wow. Wow. Thank you so much for your time. An amazing
no
car.
problem at all.
I appreciate it.
No problem.
Thank you. I just want to see some full-size cars. Here's the Delta 88s. I think I guess I could look at the label. 73. Okay, round headlights. Yeah, and look at this 2-door. Look how massive the door is. Huge interior, massive trunks. Although with the convertible, you lose some trunk space. But
75.
Yeah. Pretty awesome stuff. Look at this kind of stuff. This is a 1904 Curved Dash Oldsmobile. And if you look at the sticker here, it says it's got that car's beautiful. It says it's got a 1-cylinder engine with a 125-pound flywheel. Second owner. It's unbelievable. That car is over 100. It's almost 120 years old now. How much of things have changed in a century, huh?
Yeah.
Is that the choke?
Decompression kit. I couldn't crank it over.
Wow. Listen to this thing run.
It's smooth as a kitten.
It is. I'll tell you.
Look at this. It doesn't even have a steering wheel. It's like a steering thing.
just amazing.
Here's a beautiful car, especially if you like the G-bodies like I do. This is a 87 Olds, and this is a Cutlass Supreme Brome, I believe it is. You can see again those Euro headlights up front, right? Notice it's got the clear turn signals down here. I like the, I think the 86s had yellow, but anyway. And this one is kind of an interesting option, and it's original paint, 65,000 original miles, a lacquer paint. And you can tell this paint, even though this paint is in like new condition, it's not quite as shiny as like a clear coat car would be today, but it's very difficult to preserve this paint. Even after 7 or 8 years of daily use, this stuff would start to crack. If we look in the interior, it's got the 442 style sport leather wrapped steering wheel, the gauge cluster, you can see it there. It's got 65,000 miles on the odometer. And now these are not bucket seats though. This it's actually a split bench, so it kind of looks like a bucket seat interior, but it's not. It's a split bench. So what that means is you could fold that armrest up and you could actually seat somebody in the middle there. Okay. And sport suspension on it. And it's got super stock wheels, but these are not the same wheels as the 442. They don't have the gold inset, number one. And number two, if you can see there, they are 205/70. It is a 14-inch wheel, but it looks very similar to the 442 wheel. Pinstriping down it. Just a gorgeous car. And you could probably get them with a variety of different gear ratios. It should have a 204R 4-speed automatic, but just another piece of piece of automotive history here that as more time passes, I think these cars get more and more interesting. There's a power antenna, draws down into the fender well. Those failed a lot and would stay up. Here's a beautiful 1969 442 here. Another one I would put in the resto mod category. By the way, we see again those quarter windows with a door frame. So this would be a post coupe, and what you see here is a little less controversial. So these right here are 17-inch wheels. The tires are 245, 50, 17. And this style of wheel too, the wheels are US Mag brand, but like American Racing makes a Torque Thrust 2. So I guess what I'm saying is it's a 17-inch wheel that's kind of very reminiscent of the old 15-inch Mag wheels. So tire width is a little more conservative. And a lot of the guys are doing this. What I found is I really love my 18 inches, but that's where you start to get a little bit more of a love-hate. But I think this is a great middle ground, and I think it looks amazing. Here's a beautiful 1968 442, and this is another take. Here are the all chrome Super Stock 2 wheels, or is it Super Stock 3? Anyway, it's got the snap-on center cap. These are the style wheels that would have come on the the 84 or 5, I forget, but anyway, the 80s to 87 Olds 442s. Tires are 215 65 R15, which is what a 442 would have come with. The insets there are painted gold on a 442, but here's another take on it. Putting a little bit newer wheel, a little bit older car, 15 by 7-inch wheels. It looks very beautiful. And here's a special G body. Here's an 84 Hurst Olds. The Hurst Olds had a similar concept to the 442 with the two-tone color, but obviously you can see the gray and black. And then the insets on the wheels are that silver. So that 68 that I just showed actually may have had a Hurst Olds wheels. Now, all the things that these cars always came with, for example, the sport suspension, the steering wheel, bucket seats. But being a Hurst Olds, this has the lightning rod shifters. So you see those shifters where you put it in drive, and then you can throw the back shifter. You slam from first to second on the 1-2 shift, and then 2 to 3. So the idea is you can manually shift the automatic. And another nice feature that you could get on G-bodies is the T-tops. And we can see that here on a Cutlass Supreme here. Or is this Cutlass or Cutlass Supreme? You can see here optioned out with the T-tops. And this is interesting. It's got the same shifter, which I could be wrong, but I don't think you could get that shifter outside of the Hurst Olds. So someone retrofit that, I'm guessing. And another part of the real beauty of these shows is the swap meet area. I've always loved the swap meet area, but they are actually becoming not just something that's nice, but something that's necessary. You know, for example, from this guy here, I purchased a piece of trim that I need. That's, you know, really expensive, new, like $225 as a kit. You know, I didn't need the whole kit, so, you know, one person here for $30 had one piece of a drip rail molding. Another person over there had one that I got for 50 bucks. You know, like you see interior panels, you see here, you know, specialty wheels that you need, all this stuff. You know, and it's also, by the way, environmental. You know, you're recirculating these old parts. You know, seats, some of this stuff is unbelievably expensive. Some's really inexpensive. Trunk lids, you see center caps, there's carburetors, all kinds of stuff, intake manifolds. I bought a wing from this guy here. Instead of paying $300, so with shipping and tax, it'd been like close to $400. I got the wing for $150. Of course used, of course needs work. But this is the kind of stuff where the swap meet area, like I said, is really invaluable for putting one of these old cars back together without spending $1 million. So here you're asking me right now, why do I have a Cadillac Escalade in the Oldsmobile Club of America car show? And hi, Bob. I know we met the other day at the racetrack, Bobby, right?
Yes, sir.
And if we look here, it has to be Olds powered or bodied, and I see the hallmarks of a 455 Olds with a air gap is at the, but anyway, the big thing on here, I think the two things that are blowing me away, number one, the EFI, and number two, the serpentine system, right?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, so how did you do this? First of all, maybe should we start with the EFI?
The EFI is, it's an air gap intake. It's got LS3 injectors. We had bungs welded into the intake to run sequential fuel injection. And then we run a set of 5.3 coils that are back behind the engine there. We took let me move this air breather for you.
Oh, wow. Oh, beautiful.
We took a Olds distributor and put it and made it into a cam sensor. And then down underneath the truck, there's a 5.3 crank sensor.
So the spark plug wires are hooked to the coils.
Yes, sir.
And the distributor is, you made it into a cam sensor.
Yeah.
So in other words, you have to put a sensor in the distributor.
Yeah, it's got a pickup in there for a cam sensor, so we can run sequential. And then there's a custom crank sensor mount with a 5.3 crank sensor on the bottom pulley. It's real tough to see from up here.
Okay, you can kind of see this. That's the reluctor ring?
Yeah, that's a 5.3 reluctor ring.
I think I'm going to try and zoom in on it.
It's got a 5-liter Ford crank pulley. These are all Chevy.
Hang on one more time. 5-liter Ford crankshaft pulley?
Yep.
Is the bottom pulley?
Yep.
And you couldn't use the stock one from the accessories?
We probably could have, but it wouldn't have fit as well. So, and then these are all the stock accessories that came on this truck. So we can walk into a parts store and buy an alternator, an AC compressor, the injectors, anything that we need to buy for it. It's
from a 5.3?
Well, some of it's 5.3. This stuff's all 5.7 because this truck came with a 5.7, and then some of the other stuff's 5.3, but it's all commonly stocked.
And what year?
2000. This is 2000. The injectors are LS3, so they'd be 09, 010. The coils are any 5.3 truck.
Wow. And how on earth did you get? So what is it? There's one accessory bracket here.
Yeah. So
this one is a separate one.
These are, I'll move this hose here. If you look down in here, Larry Lorton designed these conversion brackets years ago. We fit them to...
Does he sell them?
He doesn't anymore because the water pumps are not available.
Okay.
So we're currently working to try to find a remedy for that. So
but if you were really good with machining tools, I mean, it's a plate and spacers and...
Yes.
But you need to... Okay, so that's the dimensions of the head.
Yep.
And then how does it... I'm trying to video and look at the same time. And I wouldn't lean on a car fit normally. You're in here.
Fine.
And then, okay, so I see that's that plate.
Yep.
Getting to the head pattern's not the toughest part. So you just got to make two sets of... So this bolt goes all the way through.
Yes, sir.
This connects to the bracket and your head. And then the other two... Okay, so you have basically 1, 2, 3, you have 4 separate holes for 5 connection points.
And we still have a bracket to make down here in this lower section.
Okay.
So, you know, this is kind of an...
For more support, you're saying?
Yeah, it's an unfinished deal. If you look at the AC side, it's got more... There's more brackets there.
And because... Okay, so is this bracket
this is
connected to that bracket?
No, these are separately bolted to the motor on each side, just like they were on the truck when it came stock.
So you got to get them spaced front to back correctly.
Yes.
This way is not so critical because the belt will take that off, right? I mean, to some degree.
They just sit where they fit on the heads, so the heads are symmetrical each side. So they're going to sit this way where they're supposed to. There was a little bit of challenge with this because of just some things like this bracket back here was hitting the intake, so we had to kind of clearance that. And Larry's brackets are actually not made to have these. You can see the spacers in there. we had to make those spacers to bring them out further.
Okay.
So, but there's this runs a GM 411 PCM. It's a stock computer. This fan assembly is out of an 04 Escalade.
Okay.
This is a 5.3 hose for like a Chevy pickup.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
And so, okay, so what about the belt? I mean, as far as where if you place this too far off, you don't have got certain amount of give in the belt length based on the tensioner.
Yeah, so we did a measurement on the belt, and then when you look at the tensioner, you know, on tensioners they should be centered.
Okay.
So you know, like the first belt we put on was a little too tight, so it had the tensioner, the tension of the belt real tight. So we just went up a size in the belt basically.
Okay.
So.
Okay. And they're different belts, so it may not be the belt for this exact.
This belt is for a Hyundai.
Oh, really? Got it. Awesome. So you see the proper width, number of ribs, and
right, exactly. Yeah.
This is amazing, amazing. So, and why is the water pump special on this car?
That is a 2-year-only Olds V6 diesel reverse rotation.
Reverse rotation because it's a serpentine belt. The belt wrap.
Yes.
It goes around the other direction.
And there are, and I'll add this to it. There are several different companies that sell quote-unquote serpentine systems. This is the only true serpentine setup for an Olds this design. I didn't design it. Like I said, Larry Lorton made the brackets, but this is the only way to get a real serpentine setup on an Oldsmobile.
Really?
Yeah, because the other ones use 50 tensioners and idlers, and just it's not a true serpentine.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
Get that
So that's
there.
so this is the hard part though, is getting that reverse rotation water pump, because I know what you're talking about. It was a V6 diesel Olds built off of the 260 Olds diesel or gas engine. And that has a serpentine belt system. But you're saying that reverse rotation water pump is not available for that car anymore.
We're working to, Larry Lorton actually gave me permission to copy these brackets, and we're working to try to find a way to get the water pumps done. So
I may be in touch with you.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. See the crank trigger?
Brackets and everything, man. That was awesome. That was the biggest 3-day. Who was the guy in the wagon? You guys talked to him anymore? Oh, okay, good. And I guess he actually figured out what was wrong. He just got it. I always wanted to 3 weeks ago.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. My friend Tim told me about it the first day he saw it Wednesday, and I was like, "It's a what?" And this is really cool.
They tried to. There was definitely some resistance about it being on the show field until we explained what it was.
Right.
And I actually have been building this for about 2 years. We registered it for Murfreesboro last year, and within the first 24 hours after they got my registration, I got 3 calls from the OCA.
Really?
Because they're like, you know, this is an Oldsmobile show, and I'm like, it's got a 455 in it, you know.
Yes.
So,
how does it drive?
We haven't driven it yet.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, this is we thrashed on this for about a week and a half before the show, and it actually left my shop without me, and got dropped off up here, and I came and brought the Cutlass up.
Got it. I can understand thrashing completely.
So hopefully shortly we'll be putting some miles on it, and then our plan is to tow an Oldsmobile to Missouri next year with this Cadillac.
Okay. Beautiful. Appreciate it. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Right, and here's another example of a 1969 F85. It's good to see you again, Bob. Nice to meet you. What's your name? David. And this would be an example of, obviously more modernized. Back in the day, a lot of these parts wouldn't have been available, but that F85, this would be the good example of what happens after you finish putting it together for drag race use, right? In other words, we see the DOT legal drag slicks on the back, right? DOT means Department of Transportation, so it's still street legal. You said all the lights work, and this actually a big block Olds. And you can see it's got like the motor plate here, some interesting stuff. So that's to keep the engine from rotating over the rubber motor mounts. You know, basically locking the engine in solid. The accessories are all gone except for just the bare minimum. There's a belt driving the alternator to recharge the battery. And it's got an electric water pump, so electric fans and ported heads, right? You said a solid roller camshaft. Expensive valve train, because then you have really high spring pressures, so you have to modify the valve train so that it all holds together. And then the rear end is what gear ratio? 456. That's a really steep gear ratio. And the Detroit locker, you said, so you can drive it on the street, but not ideal. Okay. And you're going to need a roll bar in this thing pretty soon, right? No, not yet. Okay.
It's required.
Aftermarket shift.
Sits.
Gorgeous paint job on this. Is this a factory color?
Factory code.
Okay, and here we can see, this is a good example of an open post coupe. There's a correct term, right? Post coupe, right?
Post car.
Post car. Yep. Fuel cell instead of a gas tank underneath. Here's a couple Oldsmobile Toronados. The Toronados actually had quite a bit of technology for the time. I believe this is a 66. And I think they were the first American car. I'm going to link a video that has a lot of the technical about these, without the quarter windows, like without these little corner windows in the front you can see there. Front wheel drive cars with a 455 Olds. These had drum brakes. Obviously that's not a technological selling point, but look at the pop-up headlights, styling on this thing. Long hood. V8 mounted up front longitudinally with front wheel drive. And you can see here, the fenders look similar. But you can see now the difference in a 69 Toronado. Very cool cars. And here we have another beautiful car with a couple unique features. Bob, it's nice to meet you.
Jim.
It's a beautiful paint job on this car. We have, let's see, don't tell me, we've got square bumper, square turn signals without the chrome. So this is a 70, right?
70. Yeah.
70 Cutlass or Cutlass Supreme?
Cutlass Supreme, which was the more luxurious.
And I see this looks like it's been restored to original. We have super stock 2 wheels with the bolt-on center caps.
Yes.
Either reproduction, are they bias ply tires? Or?
These are actually a fiberglass bias tire.
Okay.
These were the onset before the radial tire come along, and they only made these tires about 5 years, from 68 to 72.
And for people that don't know, bias ply versus radial, all modern tires are radial. Bias ply were built differently.
Right, exactly.
Didn't perform as well.
Bias means just regular twine type, wire type belts in them.
Yeah, they didn't last as long, and they had worse traction.
Right,
exactly. But that's the original look of the tire.
That's the original look, correct.
You see the convertible top here is gorgeous. Under hood, I see like all the stamps and wiring is all.
Everything's put back the way it came from the factory.
The way it came from the factory. Look at those grills.
Battery.
Yes. Now that you can buy a cover, right?
Well, no. This was made there in Youngstown, Ohio.
Wow.
They make them in there, and it's actually an AGM battery, but it looks original with original tags.
Because these batteries in those days, you would have to pop these covers off.
They would call them a tar top battery.
Okay.
And they would call it a flooded battery because you had to put water in them.
You had to add distilled water.
Right.
Yeah, there's
That's
maintenance.
What they call them, flooded batteries.
People don't realize what maintenance these cars were. You had to maintain a car to drive it in those days.
But now it's got a modern battery encased in the old style Delco.
So you get the advantage of the modern, and it looks great.
Right, exactly.
Now let's talk about a couple unique features. So I see the small block painted gold here, but then you see it is not a 4-barrel like you almost always see.
It's a 2-barrel.
2-barrel.
Yes.
It's going to have great low-end torque.
Yes, but this is only with the 2-barrel.
This is a cruiser.
This 2-barrel is only a 265 horse.
Only 265 horse.
And the cylinder heads are different too. They got a smaller valve in it. With the 310 horse now that had the 4-barrel with the 4-barrel heads on it. Had different lettering. Had different lettering on the heads. Like mine are number 8. The 210 or the 310 horse.
I see some attention to detail. Like you see these little keepers where you bend that tang down.
That's the locks for the exhaust bolts.
Yep, that keeps exhaust bolts from backing on. Yep. And a heat shroud there for cold starts. And there's another neat feature about this you want to show us. The transmission is?
Yeah, it's actually a 3-speed on the columns. And it's most likely one of one built, if not out of a handful. That wasn't a very popular thing back in the day for being such the top-notch luxury performance cars. If you had a 3-speed, you usually had it on the floor. And that was an M14 transmission. This has an M15
now let's clarify. So that's a 3-speed manual transmission.
Manual, not automatic. Right. Not automatic.
Now this should be kind of interesting.
I'll show you.
So you guys notice, first of all, if we look in the middle of the car, there is no shifter on the middle of the floor.
So here's your shifter. I'm going to put the brake on and push the clutch in. Okay, we're in reverse right now.
Clutch is in.
Clutch is in. Here, let me get the key out.
Oh, yeah, that would help. It came with the sport steering wheel then?
Yeah. Oh,
beautiful 4-spoke.
So what happens, you park it in reverse when you do it. Yeah, so turn the ignition on, that unlocks the column. All right, say we're starting out. This is first, you let out the clutch.
Yeah,
you're going first. Now you would shift, go up, you're in the second.
And it's up, back, up. Could you do that again?
Okay, we'll start it first.
First.
And then as it goes up, the shifter pops forward. It goes up the second, and then we go down to third.
Amazing.
See?
And then you just cruise around when that thing is
third,
down.
right. Like you said, you could actually almost lug it down. You don't have to downshift. This is called downshift. You go from third back to second, let out the clutch.
And could you show second to first again?
And then second to first.
And it doesn't really show up on video, but it is down, forward, down.
Yeah, well, as you go, like I say, as you go up, the shifter actually follows forward. Go to second.
And it's sprung to pop forward.
It's sprung to pop forward.
It's biased towards the upshift.
And then, like I say, you go to stop. You're done. Put it in reverse. Go out. Turn the key.
Very cool. And what was the nickname? They had a nickname for those.
Called 3 on the Tree.
3 on the Tree.
3 on the Tree. Yeah, that's what they call it, 3 on the Tree.
So
yeah, because a lot of people get mixed up when you say throw a 3-speed on a mat. No. It's a manual of a clutch, yeah. And it's more common so in the day to have 3-speed on the floor or 4-speed on the floor.
Right.
But this was, like they said, they used to call them like granny cars. They call it a nickname.
Yeah.
You know, because that's what
right. Nobody that raced wanted a manual transmission shift on the car.
No, it was like an old timer's car. But this fella, he worked at Oldsmobile. He was an engineer there, and this is the way he ordered it. I don't know if he was under for gas fuel mileage at the time. I don't know, but he said with a 2-barrel 350 small horse engine with the 3-speed, and I got the 278 gear ratio in it. And
highway gears.
We get about 15, 16 mile a gallon with it, but it's fun to drive. Yeah, it's beautiful. Yeah,
beautiful car. Beautiful car. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.